There is a verse they consistently skip in Sunday school. Revelation 19:14, it reads, "And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean." Look closely. Not angel armies, not a celestial spirit battalion. The text says armies plural, human soldiers in resurrection bodies, riding behind the King of Kings when he splits the sky. This presents a question that should command our deepest attention. Who are they? If you believe it is a random selection of well-meaning congregants, you have missed the deliberate narrative God has been writing since Genesis. Your lineage, your history, your descendants are inscribed in this story with permanent ink. You were told you were cursed. An entire theology was constructed around your subjugation, with Deuteronomy 28 wielded as a definitive condemnation, yet the reading always seemed to stop at verse 15, but verse 68 declares, "And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you." Here, Egypt is not merely a location. In prophetic language, it signifies the house of bondage. Ships. The middle passage was not a historical accident. It was a specific prophecy fulfilled in timber, iron, and suffering. 400 years, Genesis 15:13, foretold that Abraham's offspring would be afflicted in a foreign land for that exact duration. Calculate the timeline. From 1619 forward, that covenant period concluded. You are living in the wake of a divine contract that has reached its terminus. But the narrative you were denied is this: the curse was always provisional. The blessing is eternal. One cannot halt at the curses in Deuteronomy 28. You must proceed to chapter 30. "And the Lord thy God will circumcise thine heart, and the heart of thy seed to love the Lord thy God. And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee." This is not abstract symbolism. It is a legally binding clause of divine reversal etched into the covenant itself. The very curses orchestrated against you are destined to return upon their originators. Consider the historical spiritual sanction. In 1452, Pope Nicholas V issued the papal bull Dum Diversas, granting Portugal the authority to enslave Saracens, pagans, and unbelievers, a clear designation for Africans, in perpetuity. This decree, never rescinded, provided the legal and moral framework for turning human beings into capital. Now connect this to the inventory of Babylon. In Revelation 18, listed among gold, silver, and merchandise are slaves and souls of men. John the Revelator witnessed the transatlantic slave trade, the auction blocks, the manifests, the brutality, centuries before its occurrence. He also witnessed its ultimate judgment. This pattern of oppression and promised reversal is captured in the brief but potent book of Obadiah. Verse 15 states, "As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head." This is the principle of boomerang justice. In prophecy, Edom represents the systems that persecute Jacob, the scattered and oppressed people of God. Edom grows comfortable, believing the inheritance is theirs, forgetting Jacob possesses a restoration clause. Obadiah 18 is unequivocal. "And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them." You do not negotiate with a consuming fire, yet intertwined with judgment is a promise of restoration. Specifically for the oppressed, Amos 9:12 speaks of raising up the tabernacle of David that is fallen. This was not a physical structure, but a paradigm of unmediated access to God. The prophecy concludes that the restored ones will possess the remnant of Edom. Those who were once possessed will become the possessors. This is the arc of the biblical narrative. Exile is followed by return. Psalm 137, "The lament by the rivers of Babylon is more than a sad song. It is a defiant act of memory, a war chant declaring, 'If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning.' You do not cling so fiercely to an identity unless you know the captivity is temporary. This identity is fundamentally misunderstood if we limit the church to a weekly gathering. The New Testament Greek word is ecclesia, a legislative assembly, a governing body. When Jesus said, "I will build my ecclesia," he was instituting a governmental authority hell's systems could not overcome. And your place in this assembly is defined in Revelation 5:9-10, redeemed from every kindred, and tongue and people, and nation, and made kings and priests to reign on earth. Your ancestral journey through injustice was not a disqualification. It was in the economy of heaven, an accelerated training in the governance you are destined to exercise. History provides stark prophetic pictures of this truth. The Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921 saw a thriving, self-sufficient community known as Black Wall. Street razed from the earth, bombed from the air, looted, burned, with bodies buried in unmarked graves. For decades, it was erased from history. But like the dry bones in Ezekiel's vision, what was declared dead was merely waiting for the prophetic breath to speak again. The attempted eradication was a testament to the perceived threat of that prosperity. This pattern is unmistakable. Every rise meets a coordinated suppression. From Pharaoh's decree of targeted infanticide to the post-emancipation strategies of convict leasing, lynching, redlining, discriminatory highway construction, and mass incarceration, the methodology adapts. But the objective remains. This relentless opposition is not a sign of your irrelevance. It is a testament to your latent power. It confirms you are the wild olive branch Paul describes in Romans 11, grafted into the rich root of the Abrahamic covenant, partaking of its nourishing sap, called to bear fruit in the fullness of time. The prophetic promise for such a journey is restoration. Joel 2:25 is explicit. I will restore to you the years that the locust hath eaten. God acknowledges his sovereign allowance of the devastation, but his focus is on restitution, not merely compensation, but the supernatural restoration of time, opportunity, and legacy. This is divine mathematics, where every stolen acre, every broken family, every withheld dollar is accounted for in heaven's ledger. The reparations will not ultimately come from congressional halls, but from the treasury of heaven, and its disbursement will be a transfer of wealth from the unjust steward to the righteous heir. We see a shadow of this in the broken promise of 40 acres and a mule. Special Field Order Number 15 was a tangible, if flawed, acknowledgement of a debt owed. Its revocation did not nullify the principle. It merely highlighted the conflict between human injustice and divine justice. That principle is rooted in the Levitical law of Jubilee, Leviticus 25, where every 50th year heralded liberty, the canceling of debts, and the return of ancestral land. Jesus inaugurated this acceptable year of the Lord. If human systems will not enact it, God's kingdom will enforce it. To engage this reality, we must correctly diagnose the conflict. Ephesians 6:12 clarifies, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers. These are spiritual entities governing territories and systems. A nation founded on stolen land and labor creates a legal opening for these principalities to embed themselves in its institutions, justice, finance, education, religion. This is why reform alone fails. The battlefield is first spiritual. Your ancestors understood this intuitively. Their midnight prayers and fervent fasts were not mere rituals. They were acts of high-level spiritual warfare, challenging the legal claims of darkness over their lives and futures. The clarion call for this moment is separation. Revelation 18:4 issues a command. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. God's people are found within Babylon's systems, often comfortably assimilated. The call is to exit, economically, spiritually, mentally. This is not a call to isolation, but to intentional community and kingdom-based enterprise. It is the model of Joseph in Genesis, who, during famine, gathered resources not for personal gain, but for the preservation of a people and the establishment of a future. Today, this looks like supporting Black-owned banks that invest in community, homeschooling that imparts identity and wisdom, and acquiring land to build intergenerational, covenant-based communities. It is building a parallel economy that can weather the collapse of the Babylonian system. For that collapse is certain. Daniel 2 depicts a statue of successive empires, culminating in feet of iron mixed with brittle clay, shattered by a stone cut out without hands. That stone is Christ's everlasting kingdom. The iron and clay coalition, today's fragile globalist system, is showing its fractures. The rise of digital currencies and centralized control mirrors. The prophecy of the mark in Revelation 13, controlling the ability to buy or sell. This is not a distant fantasy, but a logical endpoint of a debt-based, surveillance capitalist system. Your historical experience of surviving outside, the system's full. Embrace is now a priceless preparation. This brings us back to the White Horse Army. Revelation 19:14 is not a metaphor for angels. Verse 8 defines the fine linen as the righteousness of saints. You are being prepared not as a passive spectator, but as an active participant in the culmination of history. Zechariah 14:5 confirms, "The Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with thee." The training ground for this ultimate vindication has been the battles of your earthly journey. Learning to stand when pressured to kneel, to hope when surrounded by despair, to declare truth when lies prevail. Therefore, understand your time and assignment. You were not placed in this era by accident. The prayers of your forebears, collected like incense in heavenly vials, Revelation 5:8, are about to be poured out as judicial answers upon the earth. Your awakening to this identity as covenant heirs, as kings and priests in training, as a necessary part of the end-time narrative, is what the powers of this age fear most. For a people who know their God are strong and do exploits, Daniel 11:32. The story does not end with Babylon's triumph. It ends with a new heaven, a new earth, and the new Jerusalem descending. Revelation 21:24-26 shows, "The nations of them which are saved walking in the light of it, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it." Your cultural heritage, purified and redeemed, will be part of the eternal tapestry. The curse is broken. The contract of affliction has expired. The God who saw the ships, who heard the cries from the holds and the fields, who witnessed Tulsa and Selma, is also the God who splits the sky. And when he does, the armies following him will be clad in white linen, riding as royalty. That is your prophetic destiny. It is time to remember who you are, to come out, to build, and to stand. For you are not just waiting for the king, you are being prepared to ride with him.